So the very first thing we need is an old tote, something that's going to hold the water. Second thing you need is some sort of pond pump. The cheapest one I could find is this Creekstone one at Harbor Freight. And I'm going to have to call them. That's really close to my name. Now, this is an older one. I've got a koi pond. And I changed my setup. I don't necessarily think you'll need the filter box, but it's a good idea. Otherwise, you're going to be cleaning it a lot. You at least need the pump, but you're going to want to pump your filter box. That's got a foam filter in it that you can take out and rinse. Now, if you're on a budget, I got you. Check this out. So you could just use a small plastic tote and make your own filter box. As long as the pump fits all the way down in it, that's about all you need to worry about. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to drill a hole. Just make it look like a filter box. Drill a hole so you can put your hose on the pump. You might want a couple other holes all the way around, just randomly, just a bunch of holes so the water can go through. This is going to be full of rocks. Your pump will be in there and the rocks are going to act like your filter, okay? It's going to be a little bit more work when you go to clean it because there's no filter to lift out and rinse off. You'll have to actually dump it out, rinse the rocks off, and put it all back together. But so you don't have to have that filter box because I think those filter boxes are like 25 bucks. You could easily make one out of a small tote. We're going to need some sort of decorative pump to pump it out of, to make it look like it's pouring out. Now you could use a metal pitcher, you can use a bucket. I've got this pump laying around, but some sort of spigot or spout or bucket, watering can, something like that. And last but not least, we need some free wood, a pallet, whatever you got. So, to get you to envision what I'm envisioning, I basically am going to take some pallet wood and build a box that sits around this tub, all right? And then I'll put a couple of boards on the back. This bad boy will sit up here like this. The pump will be down here and it'll just flow down into there and recirculate. So it's just going to be a constant water feature. But I think the first place to start is to get a Sawzall and cut these nails. I'm just going to do that rather than pry them off. So we got our two long sides. I actually ended up having to get another pallet to have enough of the same wood. But those two will be the long sides. Got a stack of wood there to make the short sides. So just measure your tote. So the top's obviously the biggest part. So we're just going to measure the top. And if it's just a tad bigger, that's okay. This is coming in at 25 and 5/8. We're just going to make it 26. 26 by 17 and a half. All right, so now we have our two sides. Okay, there we have it. We have our box. We need a little platform. So that's about the last thing we need to do is just put a piece of wood from side to side on the back. Okay. Adjust you here. So look at that. So I think what we're going to have to do is we have this hose here, and we want this to sit back. We need to drill a hole right there. So that bad old boy can sit like that. And as you can see, and I'll adjust you again here. As you can see, we're just about there. Let's throw some innards in it. Okay, so we want to use that same hole to snake our cord out of, and then we can just hide it with some rocks or something like that. So we got our pump, we got our filter box. Just going to set that filter box down in there. This particular one, it just kind of tucks around like that. A little bit of this for some easy cleaning. That baby snaps on. Maybe pushes on there. Tuck it back in there. And I may want to shorten the hose a little bit. I don't think any of it's going to show. We're going to throw 3 screws in that pump so it doesn't fall off. And then we can fill her up, plug it in, and see what happens. The best screws are ones that don't match, especially when you're making stuff like this. Don't feel bad. It doesn't have to be anything special. The more random, the more crappy, the better. Okay, in my opinion. Look, so there we are. So we can set that in the yard. We'll probably set it in the rocks. But we're ready to fill up. I'm going to move it out there. We're ready to fill it up and check it out. All right, here goes nothing. All right, it's looking pretty good, but I need to get that top on. I need to dress it up a little bit. It looks a little bit boring, so let's add some stuff. Okay, so I got the top on, and I did end up putting some trim around the top there just to kind of finish the top off. So as you can see, the water is coming out pretty fast. So I'm going to go ahead and put a flow valve on it so I can control the flow. So I just want to show you guys the hose and how I did it. I just ran it up through there, and then I got some heavy duty caulking or seam sealer, and I put some rocks on the top of the hose until it dried. And speaking of hose, you should use a black colored hose. That's going to help with algae a little bit. But here's a front view. And then some of you are probably going to ask how I attach the chain, and I just use a cotter pin. And the reason for a chain, if you've ever seen chains as gutters, it just gives something for the water to run down. I needed the water to flow straight down. It wanted to run backwards, and it was giving me a lot of water loss. You'll also notice I made a cutout on that board just to get some wood out of the way. But the chain really helps it go down. You're really going to have to tinker back and forth to get that flow correct. And just minimize your water loss, because the last thing you want is to come out in the morning and it's all empty and your pond pump's running. Now another thing, I did talk about it, but I didn't show you, was the flow valve. Now it's just going to go in the hose somewhere after the pump, but before your feature. And it's just going to control the flow. So there's several different types you can use. You can get them at any hardware store. Sometimes when you buy a pump, it'll come with a flow valve. So that's one thing to look for. I don't know if the Harbor Freight one comes with the flow valve or not. If you guys want to see a maintenance video on me cleaning this filter box with the foam filter, let me know in the comments and we'll do that. But my pond in the back, I used that pump for years, that rusty pump, as my spigot. I've got a different unit, and that's why I have this pump and this filter box and stuff laying around. I realize not everybody's going to have that stuff laying around. But if you have a small tote and some rocks and 10 bucks, if you got 10 bucks and can get the Harbor Freight plus tax, cheapest pump I could find. And by the way, Harbor Freight, like I said, Creekstone, that's getting a little frickin' close, buddy. All right, there's one last thing I didn't tell you about, and that's the fact that that water is going to get dirty and nasty really quick. There's a secret to get it clear and keep it clear, but it's kind of a whole separate issue. So I made a whole separate video on it, and that video is going to be right here. I'm still waiting for you to click on it. I'll see you over there.